Today's episode is brought to you by Flowsmith. Flowsmith is a hassle-free ordering system that empowers sales reps and customers through a streamlined QuickBooks portal. Designed for the crafts industry, the portal allows you to improve your company's performance while reducing costs. Flowsmith has created a new and intuitive way for your customers and representatives to place orders, check inventory online, and more. Go to flowsmith.us today to get more information about finding an easier way to manage your wholesale orders. Thank you so much, Flowsmith. And now, here's the show. Welcome to episode 178 of the Craft Industry Alliance podcast. I'm Abby Glassenberg. Craft Industry Alliance is a community for craft professionals where you can strengthen your creative business, stay up to date on industry news, and build connections within our supportive trade association. Check it out at craftindustyalliance.org. Today on the show, we're talking about building a multi-faceted craft business with my guest, Kathy Cano-Murillo. Kathy is an author, artist, and founder of the award-winning brand Crafty Chica. She spreads the gospel of glitter, literally, through her DIY projects and figuratively through her speeches, workshops, books, and essays. A former syndicated columnist for the Arizona Republic, she's now a full-time creativepreneur, which has led to multiple Crafty Chica mass retail product lines and collaborations with Coca-Cola, HSN, HP, WordPress, Disney, and many others. She's authored 7 craft books, 2 novels, and recently, Forever Frida, a celebration of the life, art, loves, words, and style of Frida Kahlo. She's been featured in the New York Times, USA Today, Huffington Post, BuzzFeed, and more. Kathy is a Mexican-American, a native of Phoenix, Arizona, mom of 2, a wife and mother, and owner of 3 Chihuahuas. Kathy Cano-Murillo, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
I know, it's so exciting to talk with you. I've admired your work for so many years, and you have been in the craft industry for so many years. I have to think maybe you were one of the original craft bloggers. Do you think that might be true?
Yes. I actually started my blog in 2001, and I just have always loved to make things. And as soon as I realized that I could make a living and a career doing what I love, I was like, sign me up.
Yeah, it's so neat. There's just not that many people who started, online with crafting way back then who are still here. And so I love it when I am able to connect with people who are in that very, very small group. So that's amazing. Yeah. And it's great talking with you. I know you were born and raised in Phoenix where you still live. And I'm wondering, when you were a kid, I have to think you were pretty creative. Is that true?
Yeah, I think that the whole personality thing of being a middle child, a Sagittarian, being left-handed, I think all of that just kind of bundled up and made my personality more glittery. And so I just always have been creative, whether if it's storytelling or doodling or coming up with some kind of crafty idea. It's just, I was born with it. And it runs in my family too.
Were your parents creative, or what did they do for work when you were growing up?
Yeah, well, my dad, he was very creative. So he was very creative all during his younger years. And then when he settled down to raise a family and married my mom, he became a civil engineer for the city of Phoenix. And he didn't do as many creative things as he did when he was younger, but he still, managed to work things in. He was more into fixing things after he got married, but when he was younger, he worked with resin, pressed flowers, clay, woodworking, anything he wanted, he would just figure out a way to make it. And I think that innovation transferred over to me when it comes to designing and coming up with ideas.
And what did your mom do?
My mom, while I was growing up, she was a homemaker. So she was just mostly at home. And after I had moved out, then she became an accountant.
Okay. All right. And so, and
Yeah.
you were a middle child, and I know
Uh-huh.
that you enjoyed writing. You had a great fifth grade teacher. It sounds like who
Yes.
inspired you to write
Hmm.
stories and read them out loud to the
Yeah.
class.
Yes. Yes. She really, I mean, I think as teachers, they don't realize the impact that they have on their students. And at that time, I was just this chubby little brown girl in a school where I did not fit in, and I was so shy and I didn't have a lot of confidence. But she noticed when I would turn in my stories, my language arts stories, I would get really excited. I would really get into them. So one day she had me read my story out loud to the entire fifth grade class, not just my homeroom, but all of the homerooms. And I remember being terrified, but I remember seeing everybody engaged and like they all clapped and they loved it. And then I got compliments all day. And I was like, that's what my secret power is. Like sharing creativity and telling a story. So yeah, it just always stuck with me that was something that I loved. I loved that feeling. So I was like, okay, what else can I do to keep that going?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So when you went off when you finished high school, what did you go off to do after that?
Well, after high school, I had been yearbook newspaper in high school. I knew I wanted to do some kind of writing or journalism. I went to a community college, got my 2-year degree, but I started working at the traffic court. And I loved it because I went to Europe just like as to end out high school. And I loved it and wanted to go back. And I ended up getting a job as a bailiff's assistant at the City of Phoenix Traffic Court, which in the 80s, like this was like 1984, probably 85. I mean, that was like the pinnacle job you could have as a young person because it was like a full-time salary and benefits and just all of that. So I worked there full time, got into a lot of fashion and travel and all of that. But that's also where I met my husband. And then we ended up both leaving working at the traffic court, and we went on to get married, and he was a creative, so we just started creating art together and selling it. And he was also a musician, so I was the manager of his band, and I would set up and sell my handmade items while the band was playing at different concerts. And sometimes I made more money at my craft table than the whole band made at their gig. So
Wow.
after we got married, we're like, let's just do this full time. And there was a lot of trial and error to figure out how to lead a life where you're doing only handmade and music type of things.
Yeah, I bet. And so it sounds like the two of you kind of put your heads together and started making Latino centric products together that were handmade, and you got a whole lot of wholesale accounts. Did you connect with like a
Yes.
rep or something?
Well, it happened by accident because what we needed to do was make money to pay our electric bill. So we had $20. We took the $20 to the craft store, bought a blank canvas, a pad of watercolor paper, and craft paints. And we made watercolor paper earrings. So we cut out different shapes and painted them, put the earring hooks on them, and then put I think 12 sets on the canvas, the 16 by 20 canvas. And then we walked from boutique to boutique to sell one board of earrings. And one board of earrings was $100 wholesale. And then the retailer would have 12 pairs of earrings. They had the display, loved it. And one of the stores we went into happened to be a national sales rep. And she had a partner in New York, and she said, hey, send me some samples and we'll take them to the gift show. So we didn't know even what a trade show or gift show was. So we just made a bunch of stuff. We didn't have a lot of money at the time. So we went to the clearance shelves. And so then within like a month, we had 300 orders, like of all, 12 of this and 24 of that. And because we used clearance items, there was no way we could get multiples of them. So, and back then there was no internet. This was in the very early 90s. So it was a headache. For 2 years, we did that. And there was no PayPal. We had to wait on checks. And a lot of times people's checks bounced. And it was just a nightmare. And our breaking point was we had a perfume company order 10,000 hand-painted flower pots. And we were like, okay, this is a sign from God. Like, no, at first I thought, let's do it. But then my husband's like, this is not art anymore. This is like a sweatshop in our living room. So that's when I was like, we need a break. And I thought if we ever return to this, we will definitely do it in a different way. And that's when I went to work at the newspaper. And, I just needed to get out of the house, do something that had nothing to do with crafts. And I got a job like tearing the newspapers in the basement. Well, I ended up working my way into the features newsroom as a clerk, and they knew that I made merchandise because they had bought it. So they asked me to write a craft column, and I started the craft column, and then that got syndicated. And that's really where everything took off, because I just was like, wow, instead of making 100 things, I can teach people how to make things. And then I launched Crafty Chica as a way to show those tutorials.
So when you got to the newspaper, and you were just basically trying to get a day job, it sounds like, just because of the burnout.
Yes, a day job that I knew I loved.
Right.
Like, I did not want to settle for something where I would be miserable. I wanted to love where I was at. And I had always wanted, my dream job was always to be a features reporter at the Arizona Republic. So when the art started going wonky, I thought, you know what, let me pursue this other thing that I had, just to see, so I can say I tried.
Right, exactly. And so that seemed like a good idea. And then it sounds like the people at the newspaper realized that you were crafty. They had bought some of your products, some of the reporters,
Yes.
or some of the editors.
Yeah. My editor, when I went in for my interview, she actually had one of my flower pots in her office that she had purchased at a local store. And I went in the interview and I'm like, I painted that. And she said, oh my gosh. So yeah, once I started working in the features newsroom as a clerk, I was just an entry-level clerk. The reporters recognized me, like, oh, we've seen your art before, or I bought, a magnet from you at the Heard Museum one time. Like, so they were familiar with what
Right.
I did.
Right. You had like a little bit of a local reputation. I see. And
yeah.
Right. Okay. And so you started writing this craft column. Was that something that you pitched, or was that just something that they were like, we need to fill up space?
A fluke.
Okay.
The home editor came to me and said it was because Martha was on PBS.
Oh, yeah.
And she had, people were interested in DIY. In the paper, they had this craft column that they used to run from The Wire. And that column, it ended. And so they said, well, we want to have a DIY column in the Saturday paper. Would you want to do it? And at first I was like, oh, I don't do crafts, I do art.
Oh, that's interesting.
I know,
you really identified yourself as an artist and not as a crafter.
Yes. And then my husband was like, you know what? This is a chance for you to design for a general market audience to learn new techniques, learn new products. He goes, "Oh my gosh, you totally need to do it and, expand your skills." And I said, "You know what? Let me try it. What have I got to lose?" It wasn't, my dream was covering entertainment, but I thought I could do like an arts and craft column. And I started doing it, but mine were very not like Martha at all. There, because she's a minimalist and I love like just layering everything on. So all of my projects were very meaningful, very much about self-care. And this was in, the late 90s. So that whole concept of self-love and self-care, no one talked about that. But all of my craft projects were themed around that. And within 3 months, the column got picked up by Gannett News Service, and it started running in 130 newspapers around the country. And it was interesting because I realized the power of it. And then when the internet really kicked in. It was when MySpace started, and I started MySpace, and that just took off. And I used all of my MySpace following to help build traffic on my craft column on the newspaper website. So I really learned the power of social media back then.
Yeah. And do you think that the reason that the column took off, it sounds like it was because you were connecting crafting to kind of a vibe or an idea about how to live. It wasn't just like make this project because it's pretty or it's going to make your home look cool, but it was like an attitude or something.
Yes, it was. I had my own criteria. Like I wanted every project to be functional. And so I tried my best to make them functional. And then they all came with a little story of what inspired the project. And then a lot of it was like, do a random act of kindness, like make this and give it to a friend. Or if, like there was a hurricane and I'm like, here's how to decorate tote bags so that you can fill them up and, go donate them. And so they all had that element to them of just a little bit deeper meaning. To have purpose.
Right. So it was connecting it to, sort of an overall life, like a lifestyle almost, a way to be in the world. Which is, I think, what you do so well, just in general. And so just the connection with people. And so that was even coming out in that early experience. And so, and also this, early adoption of social media, which is also so fascinating. So I didn't realize you had this MySpace, following. And then it sounds like you started the Crafty Chica in order to, kind of build a way to get readers who weren't necessarily able to get the paper or who wanted to be able to access the content.
And also like thinking back to when we were hand making all of that art and couldn't keep up with demand, I knew that there was a demand for Latino-centric products. And I thought, well, I can use my website to show people how to make their own, Milagro jewelry or a loteria pillow for their bed. So I just started doing different tutorials. So it served two purposes of, sharing my weekly craft column for the paper and then also sharing other tutorials that people could do.
I see.
And then just creating community also.
I want to take a minute now to hear from our sponsor, Flowsmith. Flowsmith has a proven track record of success with small businesses across the United States. Their very first client was Malabrigo Yarn, a family-owned company that produces a line of soft and colorful hand-dyed yarns. They are passionate about a high-quality product because they know that each person who knits and sews does it for personal enrichment. In other words, they want their clients to trust that the brand is reliable and relatable. Before Flowsmith, Malabrigo had a variety of issues that many small companies face when they begin to expand. They were overwhelmed with operational activities. Orders were being placed haphazardly, and inventory wasn't visible to customers or to sales representatives. When Flowsmith got involved, they immediately took several steps to address these issues. First, they built a personalized QuickBooks portal for Malabrigo. This quickly revamped internal operations by streamlining the process of managing orders, inventory, and product placement. The wholesale portal made order entry more efficient and user-friendly. And a new intuitive design helped the customers enjoy a more comfortable online shopping experience. Flowsmith also takes pride in its implementation process. With Malabrigo, installing the portal took only a couple of hours. The second phase, which consisted of setting up the details of the site and giving administrators access, was carried out by Malabrigo's team themselves. They learned how to use the system rapidly, and the portal was ready for customers to use within just a few days. According to the owner of Malabrigo Yarn, Antonio, the effects have been threefold: enhanced communication, improved productivity, and increased sales. Flowsmith is comprised of a team of entrepreneurs, web designers, and savvy individuals with a singular focus: giving confidence to businesses by reducing operational headaches and increasing sales. They are proud to offer a product that specializes in usability and design that gives companies in the crafts industry a leg up on the competition. Are you ready to get started? Go to flowsmith.us today for more information. Thank you so much, Flowsmith. And now, back to my conversation with Kathy. So it was a little bit more Latino-centric, the website from the beginning. More so than the craft column. And then, also it was a way to build community around your personal brand. Right, from the beginning. Okay. Oh, that's so neat. Okay, great. And so you had this role at the paper for quite a long time, as you were building, Crafty Chica. And then, it sounds like you went to the Craft and Hobby Association, which is now AFCI, and you went to their, the trade association's, trade show. And that kind of led to some new opportunities. And this was maybe around 2007, 2008. Was that kind of a breakthrough moment when things shifted for you?
Definitely. It was, 2006 was when I went to my first CHA show.
Right.
And I went on behalf of my book publisher, and I walked through the whole thing and I saw it, and I did not see a single thing for the Hispanic market. Nothing. I think at one point I did see like a sombrero guy or maybe a piñata, but I was like, oh my gosh. And what I knew from my website was a lot of Hispanic women would craft either as a side hustle or as a hobby. And especially because, with families and cousins and sisters and all of that. And I was like, wow, there is like no representation. And so the next year I pitched to give a seminar, or actually they invited me to be part of a panel discussion on the Hispanic market. And I will never forget, because on the panel were some marketing women, and they gave this whole presentation based on immigrant shoppers. And whereas my following was bilingual, assimilated shoppers and crafters, and college educated crafters who all happened to be Latinas. And so when my turn came to speak, I'm like, okay, my story is different. And by the end of it, I had different manufacturers that came to me and said, hey, we want to do a product line. And one of them was my favorite glue company. And I'm like, I want to work with them. And they put a deal together for me, and I was able to leave the newspaper in April of 2007, which I never in a million years thought I would leave the newspaper. I thought I would retire there, but I had reached a point where I thought, wow, I already accomplished everything I wanted to accomplish at the paper, because by the time I had left, like, they sent me to night school to finish my bachelor's. I had a national syndicated column interviewing celebrities, and then I had a nationally syndicated column for my crafts. So I had 2 syndicated columns. It was like, what else? I did everything I wanted to do there, and I just knew there was something else that I was meant to do. But I always had that false narrative of like, you can't make a living from crafts. Like, no way, that is crazy. And we have 2 kids. But then I thought, you know what? Anything is possible. Like, anything is possible. And when I left the paper, it was the best decision I ever made to just take that chance to level up. And yeah, that was in 2007, and here it is 2020, and things are better than ever.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's super inspiring. And I know that when you went to CHA, you were there on behalf of your book publisher, and so we must have skipped over the books. So let's just backtrack briefly. So how had you written? What books had you written up until that point?
I hadn't written any books. I was, working at the newspaper, writing entertainment stories, and I had my blog going, and an editor reached out that they needed an author for a book idea that they had, and it was called Making Shadow Boxes and Shrines. So as soon as I had their ear for that, where I signed on to do that, I created a new book proposal for another book, and I turned that in. As soon as I saw they were happy with my work, I turned in the proposal for the other book, and that got accepted. And so that kind of started the ball rolling. And then I did a couple books for tweens, and then I did a sewing book, and then a craft book for HarperCollins. So it was all just, they're all like general craft books, except for the sewing book. It was concentrated on sewing. So yeah, those started going. But also another dream that I'd had in high school was to write a novel. And after all of this worked with my craft career, I thought, okay, like I just had that moment where I'm like, what else can I do? Like, what else is on my crazy dream list? And I'm like, write a novel. Okay, let's do this. So that was a little tougher, but my first draft I started working on in 2004, and the first book came out in 2010. So it was a 6-year process from the time I started working on it to the time it came out on bookshelves.
Wow.
Yeah. And now I'm working on my 3rd one. So I had 2 novels, and then the Frida book, and now I'm working on the 3rd novel.
And the novels, they have craft involved, like the characters are crafters.
Yeah. So my strategy or my thoughts for the novel is that when people create and turn to crafting, there's always an emotional reason behind it. Either they need to de-stress, or they want to put their mark on the world, or maybe they're curious about something. And so the stories and the plots are driven by those emotions. And then the crafting is just like a result of that. So they're really themed around the emotion that takes us to the point to where we want to craft.
Got it. Okay. So a person who is crafty would certainly relate to that, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, great. And are they the same publishers who do the craft books, or are they different publishers?
No, so those 2 novels, they were from Grand Central Publishing, and they don't really, that I know of, do craft books. They do mostly, the the imprint I worked with, they did all fiction.
Okay.
So yeah, and it was pretty cool because while I was there with my editor, I got to meet Nicholas Sparks because his books are on the same imprint. So he gave me some tips and things. So that was really,
Oh,
really
I'll
cool.
bet. Yeah, that's so
Yeah.
cool. Right. And so, I mean, I feel like one of the things that you really espouse in your sort of career path is that you are very open to kind of reinvention or just embracing new things. Would you say that that's
Yes,
true?
yes. And I don't like to call it reinventing because I feel like it's saying like, oh, the past isn't good anymore. I need to start all over. I always think of it as evolving.
Okay.
And it, I feel like that's like a way to like still honor the past and, what it has grown, allowed you to grow into. And yes, that has always been at the forefront of everything is trying something new, whether if it's a new skill or a new challenge, new music, a new type of TV show to watch. It's just embracing new. And the way I look at it is like, this is our one and only life that we have, and there's so much out there. So why not try something new rather than getting stuck in routine? And I love that because it's allowed me to meet so many new people and have so many new experiences.
Yeah. And I wonder if you have any words of wisdom around like how to choose what to say yes to or what to choose next. Like, because sometimes there's
Yes,
lots of opportunities that might
right.
come
You
our
need to
way.
manage opportunities.
Yeah.
So
And you
in the
can't say yes to
beginning,
everything, you know?
well, at the beginning, I did say yes to everything. At the beginning, I just looked at everything as an opportunity, which I think at the time was a really good idea because it helped get me seen far and wide. But then once things really started happening, especially the money aspect, where branded campaigns came up as opportunity, which I do a lot of that now. I really was like, okay, I need to give 100% to this project. And I really had to start managing my opportunities. So I would make sure that I have an end goal for the year, for the month, even for the day. And then the things that come through, the opportunities, I just say, does this take me closer to this goal or put it farther away? And if it takes it in the other direction, then I go through and match it up with someone who I think it would be a good pair with. And if it does move me closer, then I'm like, okay, yeah, let's do this.
That's
So
nice.
it
So
is,
you try to refer the person who's asking
yes.
to somebody else who
Mm-hmm.
would be a good match. I love that idea.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. You definitely have to come with an abundance mindset that there's enough for everyone. It's a big world out there. And when you think about the people we don't even know who are competing for stuff that we're doing too, it's like there's no way to get a handle on it. So just relax and know yourself and be confident in yourself and in your skills and the opportunities that come to you. And that relieves so much pressure, and it makes it more fun to do this as a career.
Yeah, absolutely. So I love that idea and I love the abundance mindset for sure. And so let's talk a little bit about your licensing work. So I know you
Uh-huh.
started out with that first set of licensed products that you were able to secure at that CHA show
Well,
after.
actually,
Oh, go ahead.
the first thing we ever did was some kid accessories for Lowe's home improvement stores,
Oh.
but we didn't know what the heck we were doing. My husband and I did. So that was very short lived because they had such a fast turnaround. So I kind of got my feet wet a little bit. And then when it came to working with Duncan Enterprises for the Michaels end cap, that was crazy because it was like all like a pinch me moment of like, is this really happening? but at the same time, it's like, we're on deadline, hurry up. So that was like really intimidating, but really exciting. It was, and then I had my things at Michael's for 8 years. Like each time was different, and it was just really fun. I felt like after hand making pieces one by one for retail stores when we first started, coming back and designing for licensing was a nice way to bookend that experience, because I always said, if we ever do this again, we're not going to hand make it, we're going to design. And that's what happened.
Yeah. So what are some of the things from that experience? And that was a long period, 8 years, that I'm sure from the beginning of that toward the end of it, you learned a lot. So I'm wondering, what are some of the sort of lessons that you took away
oh my gosh,
from that?
Learned a lot.
Yeah.
Well, I think the biggest thing is to, if you do get the opportunity to design for a big retailer, not to be overwhelmed. And I really, at the beginning, came from a place of walking on eggshells, like imposter syndrome. Like, I just need to follow along with what they tell me because they know best and I'm new at this.
Sure.
And now I realize, no, I need to stand up for myself if something is not right, because the product manager who was on that original line, she was from, I think, Kansas, and she didn't understand Latino culture. And, I would design these things, and I came in one day and they were all changed to muted tones. And she said, well, I have red hair and the colors you have don't really look good on me. We need to make sure that your line complements everybody. And then I felt so sick to my stomach, because I'm like, okay, she's supposed to know what's going on. But in my gut, I'm like, this is a line for Latinos and Latinas. Like, we don't like muted colors, not to speak on behalf of everybody, but going off of the Crafty Chica style, it was bright colors. And I had to stand up for myself and say, you know what? If that's the color palette we're changing it to, then maybe I don't want to do this, because that does not at all represent anything of what I'm about. And then the next day it was all changed back to my original colors. So you really have to know when to stand up for yourself. And sometimes you have to walk away, and after the 8 years, and, it's really, it has to be a win for the retailer, for the manufacturer, and the designer. And there were some points of working with the manufacturer, even though they had been wonderful and gave me this awesome opportunity, the direction wasn't the direction that I wanted to go in. And I had to make that choice to step aside. And I ended up signing on with a paper arts company where I designed die cut designs, and they were at a much higher price point. And that line ended up in another retailer. And I ended up making more money from that one in a shorter amount of time than I did at the first one. So, and that never would have happened had I not had that confidence and faith in myself to walk away from something. So it's just knowing, like really refine your style, your design, so that people can look at it and know that is your design, your product. Like, make sure it all fits together with who you are, and know that there's all different levels out there of licensing, from big and small, and pick out, like, what is your dream retailer where you would love to see your items, and then work backwards from there. How do they hire designers? How do they do licensed lines? So you could follow in that path to get there. So it takes a lot of research.
And are you doing a lot, or were you earlier on doing a lot of pitching, or were these opportunities really coming to you? Were they seeking you out, or was it a combo?
They came to me.
Okay.
Most of the time they came to me, and That's, I think, because of my blog. I keep it very current, and it's the foundation of everything that I do. So I always can go back and put up new articles, new posts, new tutorials, put my latest press headlines there, my newest videos. And so people can always go back and look at that. And I was inspired, like seeing J-Lo's website and Oprah's website and just all of these, even like, the E Network and CNN. I looked at their websites. I'm like, okay, how can I do a Crafty Chica version of this so it looks larger than life?
So, how important do you feel persistence or consistency has been to your success?
Oh, it's the key to everything. It is the key to everything. And I know this because when I was a features reporter and I would go to report, I would get pitches from either musicians or artists, designers to have a story written about them. That was one of the columns that I did locally, was featuring artists. The first thing I would do is go to their website, and that's what would sell me. And if it was boring, or if it wasn't updated, or if the bio was just like 3 sentences, I would go, and I would keep looking. But the people who had a website that popped, that told their story and was current, it got me excited. And I thought, I want to interview them. And so when I left the paper, I knew, like, okay, I got to keep my website, looking exciting, because that's speaking for me. That could help, hook a gig for me. Even, social media as well. People, they want to go, even now when I work on collaborations or someone reaches out to me, I go through all of their platforms and look and see, like, okay, how much effort do they put into this? Because if they put in a lot of effort, I know they're serious. And yes, I want to work with them. But if it's not updated, or it's just looks kind of lazily put together, then I'm like, I don't know.
Right. Okay. And then, right. So you having been on the other side of it really helped you, it sounds like.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
'Cause
definitely.
yeah, right.
Yes.
And then, and let's talk a little bit about these partnerships, that the brand partnerships where you are basically a content creator, for some of these bigger companies.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I'd love, for you to talk a little bit about that process for people who maybe want to get into doing that sort of work, or who are just curious about how that works. Talk a little bit about how you do that.
Well, before, when I had, launched my site and my blog, I only thought that it was craft companies that would pay you to do a craft project on your blog and
Right.
represent their products. However, I started going to some conferences for blogging, and I realized the value of having a lifestyle blog. And I already had a lot of lifestyle content on because I would blog from the perspective of being a mom, being a band wife, having the kids,
Right.
just all of that in there. The entertainment side of me, I always would update on, what the latest drama was. And, so then I realized, wow, there's categories for beauty, fashion, health, electronics, recipes, cocktails, travel. And so,
frankly, some of those have higher price points than craft, because there's
definitely
limited, let's just be honest, there's limited dollars in craft. It's true.
But this is the thing. There's limited dollars from the craft manufacturers. However, working with a company like Pepsi Cola, I did a year contract with them, and it was all DIY projects. And it paid like phenomenal. And you couldn't get that from a craft company. And It wasn't about the products we were using. It was about easy ideas for moms to make it home or for people to make it home. So there was a way to take what I did and every single campaign opportunity that came by, I would say, how can I Crafty Chica this? Like, how can I make it my own? And the funniest ones, I think, are like, I do a lot of food and recipes, but I'm not a professional food blogger. But I come from the angle of like, what is creative and easy? Like, what is the Crafty Chica take on this? And one time there was like this cheese company, and I showed how to make sugar skull empanadas, and I used a sugar skull cutter, and then it like went crazy, like it did so well. And then some of the other food bloggers were, darn you, Crafty Chica, because they did like, 7-layer cheese fondue, this or that,
and you did something so simple, but it was so brilliant. Yeah.
Yes, it's just having fun with it, like glittered paletas, the Mexican popsicles, I put edible glitter on them. So I realized like, okay, how do I take what I do for my brand and translate this to make this product shine? And it has fit into everything from TurboTax I work with every year, like helping independent artists know how to navigate, filing their taxes. To I did one with Bank of America for first-time home buyers. How do you buy a house when you're a full-time artist? So I found that it could apply to so many things. And then not to mention, like Pier 1 imports or Hallmark cards, like finding a way to add my twist to it. And that it's really fun when you look at it from that angle. And then there's some of them where I'm like, no, that does not fit at all. And I get a lot of those where I'm like, no, if I always think back to when I'm getting ready to post it on Instagram, and I feel like if I'm going to feel weird or hesitant sharing it, I don't want to share. I don't want to do this campaign.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a sewing pattern designer and I don't take on any branded content. And yet I get pitched like, to do panty liner campaigns and things like this all the time. No. And I'm like, honestly, no.
Yeah.
So, right.
But then there was like one I did for Always to help, get period products to students who couldn't afford them, and girls who would actually stay home from school because they didn't have money to buy period products.
Yeah.
And Always had this wonderful campaign where you could go and drop off donations that would go to these girls, and that I'm like signing up for
all
that,
for it. Yeah.
So everything you just really have to look at.
You have to look at it.
My
exactly.
whole theme is like spreading positivity through creativity. And so everything that I get presented with, I'm like, does this spread positivity through creativity? How do I spread positivity through creativity with this? If it doesn't come naturally, then I know it's not for me. And I think, okay, who can I partner this with? Like, who would be really good for this?
That's great. And let's talk a little bit about your approach to social media, because I know Instagram Reels launched, and I was over on the Crafty Chica Instagram page the other day, and there you are, like using it right away. So
yes.
I know, like I think there's a feeling that can happen when new things launch, and of course, new things are always launching because that's just the state of the internet, right? Things change constantly. It's always shifting under our feet. There can just be this feeling of like, oh, I wish it would just stay the same. I finally figured out how to use stories, or I finally figured out how to, the algorithm works or whatever. And I don't want it to change. And I wish it wouldn't, or, that just sort of a feeling of kind of like friction about it. Or you can have the opposite approach of just like, let's go, let's try it, let's experiment. And so talk a little bit about the way that you kind of look at it when these things change.
So I've always loved social media because they are free platforms to share our content and ideas. So when a new platform comes up, I definitely take time to research it, follow along, secure my name, all of that. But sometimes you just know when something's going to hit. And I get excited. I'm like, okay, here's yet another way I can get my content out there. And I think the day that a business owner rolls their eyes at it is the day their business will be in trouble, because by embracing new, this is an opportunity for new people to see what you're doing and become your customers. It's a new road for them to find you. And especially with all of these social media platforms, especially the big ones, when I trained it, I was at Instagram like 3 times. I got to go out there. It was amazing.
Oh,
Like everything you
cool.
would imagine
Oh my
plus.
gosh.
But
Yeah.
one of the biggest takeaways that they told us is that anytime a platform releases a new feature, use it immediately. The early adopters get rewarded in the algorithm
Yeah.
because they want you to use all of these features. So they are designed to work together. And the way that they described it to us was like when you go to a gym, instead of just doing the arm machine, use every single machine and you get a full body workout. So you're all evenly distributed. Your muscle is all evenly distributed. And so the same is with a social media platform, like with Instagram, you want to use a mixture of IGTV, stories, lives in your feed, and then use the location tags, use the stickers. Now we have reels, so use reels. And I was talking to my daughter about this because my daughter works at BuzzFeed and they had just had a meeting with Instagram about reels. And so she knew about it and she goes, "Oh, I'll probably play around with it this weekend." Okay, so she put up a video, a reel, I think it was Saturday. It now has 4 million views and it
Wow.
got featured. It's one of the featured reels.
Right.
And she's like, Reels is where it's at right now. Like, it's such a great way to boost your Instagram platform by using it and incorporating it. So, of course, they're always going to be working on glitches and things. But whenever a new feature comes out, dive into it and play with it and see how it works for you. And yeah, it can be like, oh, another thing, or it can be, wow, another thing. So
Right.
I love what I do for a living, and any opportunity that I have to introduce what I do to new people who, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I think they call that the growth mindset. And I think that's fantastic. So that's very inspiring to hear and I love that gym metaphor. So I'm going to keep that one in mind.
Yeah.
That's really brilliant and a great way to think
Hmm.
about things. So yeah, definitely thank you for sharing that. And I know you also have, some other ways. You're like kind of the queen of multiple income streams, which I also think is like the trick to making this work and potentially why, since you did quit your day job, you've been able to make this work for so long on your own. But you do well, before the pandemic, you lead a
Uh-huh.
cruise, and the Crafty Chica cruise, which sounds super awesome. And then you also have like a boutique and gallery as well.
Yes, and like it's a lot of it goes back to mindset. Like when you said like finding a way to make it work. Like I look at it as, you know, setting myself free to make as much money as I want, to do the things that I want to do. Like I'm giving myself the opportunity to thrive. And instead of like saying, oh, okay, I'm going to figure this out to make it work, I train myself to say, I'm going to, make it so I'm thriving. And I feel like that helps so much. I think just constantly waking up with the attitude of like, yes, let's do this today. We're going to thrive today. It's beyond making it work. It's like, it's really a mind shift because my husband and I, we always were like in struggle mode where everything was, how do you squeeze a dollar out of a dime? And that's what we were doing. We were squeezing dollars out of dimes. And then I went to this finance conference with a friend of mine, and it was all millionaire women who were, and I went as a guest, so I didn't have to be a millionaire, but I got to sit there and listen to them. Their mindset was, how do I turn $1 into $100? And that blew my mind, because I'm like, wow, what a way to look at it. Like, I've been looking at it wrong this whole time. I've been looking at it from a struggle mindset instead of from a prosperity mindset. And as soon as I changed that, that's what really turned the corner. But yeah, I did like craft cruises on Carnival for 10 years. And then because I wanted to do something new, I'm like, I don't like getting stuck in routine. So then I started doing ones in Mexico, like San Miguel de Allende and Mexico City. And that was amazing, totally new experience. And then when 3 years ago, I opened a boutique and gallery with a friend of mine in Central Phoenix. It was so fun. Like, we have pop-up events and, all different types of our art and workshops and everything. And then the pandemic hit, and we were like, like,
Oh,
I
gosh.
did not know what was going to happen, because here I thought I had everything all figured out. And everything was rolling the way that I had planned and made it. And so we decided, to temporarily close our store because for health reasons, and until we figured things out. And then I didn't know what was going to happen with branded campaigns. And I had just hired a brand manager back in November. And she was very experienced with working with influencers and brands and things. And we started thinking, everyone's going to be online because we can't go anywhere. And so I started Corazon Craft Nights on Instagram Live. I started doing more lives, and the campaigns did not stop.
That's great.
I still had campaigns. My online store sales went through the roof. Doing lives, that got very popular. Doing the Corazon Craft Nights on Thursdays, we were featured by NPR on this national show called The List. So it created more ways to evolve, and it taught us how to come up with yet another road for people to find us. And I discovered TikTok.
Yay!
On quarantine, and I loved TikTok because I feel like it's just an ongoing variety show of all these fun. Everyone's like show and tell. That's what it reminds me of. And I love that Instagram has Reels now, because, who knows what will happen with TikTok, but at least on Instagram, we have it there too.
Right.
So, it's definitely been a time of discovery. And then mask making. Oh my God. Like, all of a sudden, everyone is making masks, and we're all sharing our mask war stories, of I couldn't keep up with demand.
I know.
I ended up buying some to wholesale, or I bought some wholesale to sell because I just couldn't keep up with demand. And there was one point where I was telling my husband, I'm like, I feel like I've lost control of my life and what is going on. And I don't know what happened I go, I just don't feel focused. And he goes, it's the mask. He goes, our whole world has been around masks.
Yes. And you're not alone.
Oh my God, you're right.
Masks took over the life of every creative person. Yeah.
Exactly. I know. And at first he was like, don't make them. They're not any good, but they're better than nothing.
Right. We all went through that metamorphosis. Right.
Oh
right.
my gosh.
I know. It's so crazy. Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear that, you, of course, you were able to innovate and to sort of keep the ball rolling during this very, stressful time. But of course, it's no surprise. And it sounds like too, you have, despite all of this, some new products coming out this fall.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So I have a new product line coming out through Makers Movement, and it is so fun. It's a Latino-centric paper line of scrapbook paper, dies, stamps, embellishments. And then I have a second round because I also do ceramics and I work in the ceramics arts industry. I designed a line of bisque, of blank bisque that can be painted and fired in the kiln or painted with acrylic paints, and a line of silk screens that can be used on craft projects.
Oh, that's so
So
cool.
yeah, and then I have I have 2 new book projects that I'm working on, and it's just making the most of everything, of saying, what else can I do? Like, I'm going to be here for a while. Like, let's do some fun things.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I want to make sure we get to your list because you've got a couple cool things to recommend. And one of them is a book that it sounds like you listened to as an audiobook while you were in your studio, and it's called Mexican Gothic.
Yeah, it's like a haunted house story, and it's set in the 1950s. It's really good. And I love writing, I love reading, and I love making things. And I have a Crafty Chica Facebook group. It's called Las Crafty Chicas. And we're doing a craft challenge inspired by Mexican Gothic because of, Halloween coming up, and just, it's all like that haunted house theme. So it's really fun that we're tying in crafting to celebrate the book as well.
Oh, that's great. So people can go and join and then read this book too and jump in. That's super cool. Okay, cool. And then you also wanted to recommend an app. It's called Jump Rope, and actually Jump Rope, they're a Craft Industry Alliance member, and so they've done some demos in our Facebook group. But tell us a little bit about how you're using it.
So Jump Rope it's like a tutorial app where you can share your tutorials. But what I love about it is that once you upload the info and put in the description and the steps, it will format for all the different platforms. So if you click on stories, it will format it for stories. If you click on feed, it will format it for your Instagram feed. If it's for Pinterest, there's 3 ways you can make pins off of it. It's just amazing because you can adapt it to fit so many different formats, and it looks different. All of them look different. So that's what I'm really impressed about with that, because I do a lot of YouTube videos, and, so this definitely saves time, because now instead of doing a full-on production YouTube video, I can take some of my older popular tutorials where I didn't have a video and turn those into a video. So there's just a lot of things to do with it.
Yeah, exactly. And it can also format it for your blog. It just in one fell swoop.
Yeah.
It makes it so that, all your step outs are formatted perfectly in the right dimensions for all of these different social media apps.
Yeah.
Yeah. So super convenient. So check it out. Yeah, that's really cool. And it's free. That's always nice. Well, Kathy, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the Craft Industry Alliance podcast. It was super good talking to you.
Oh, thank you. And I think my biggest takeaways is for people just to nail down what their mission statement is with their brand and what they want to do, who they want to reach, and then create content that matches that. And also, look at what gets the most engagement on what you've posted, and then do more of that.
Yes.
Pay attention to what people are responding to and do more of that, because that's what they want. And if you already posted, that means you already know about it. But yeah, I wish so much success to everybody.
Yeah, thank you. This was really, really informative and full of words of wisdom. So thank you.
Thank you.
And you've been listening to the Craft Industry Alliance podcast. I'm Abby Glassenberg. Today's episode was brought to you by Flowsmith. Flowsmith knows that businesses want to spend more time on developing and selling their product and less on logistical nightmares. By using the wholesale portal developed by Flowsmith, you can count on powerful inventory management, flexible order placing, and a customer-friendly layout. Designed with the craft industry in mind, users of the portal consistently say that they don't know why they didn't make the switch sooner. So what are you waiting for? Go to flowsmith.us today and you can try it for 90 days, absolutely free. Thank you so much, Flowsmith. Craft Industry Alliance is a community for craft professionals. And when you become a member of Craft Industry Alliance, you get in-depth coverage of craft industry news, the opportunity to connect with fellow professionals for advice and support, and access to an educational library filled with ideas, tools, and resources to help you as you build your business. Join us at craftindustrｙalliance.org. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.